was walking with a friend, and three officers in an unmarked car, three white men, came armed, a gun inches from my head, imploring me to give them the drugs.
Alvin Bragg still carries the pain and humiliation of his first encounter with police more than 30 years ago.
They realized I'd done nothing wrong. That was my very first interaction with the police. I went home to my parents, and I was ready to crawl into the bed. And they said, no, we fight.
Shut up, nigga.
He's been fighting ever since. Now, this Harvard-educated lawyer from Harlem
surprise, motherfucker,
is on track to become the next Manhattan district attorney. If elected in November, Bragg, a former federal prosecutor, would be the first non-white man to be elected to the top job.
I think it's important in that symbolic way, but also in a very substantive way. I'll be the first black Manhattan district attorney, but also be first, I think, in lots of other ways that really reflect people's experiences.
Oh, man, Roger.
Can you take me through those actual situations? You say 3 times civilians pulled guns on you. What happened?
The first time I was, I think chronological, the first time I was leaving a party in a housing development. Actually, I was leaving a party and going to one, and then someone with a semi-automatic weapon at the door because there was a situation developing between 2 groups of people, and so someone pulled out a semi-automatic weapon and said, this ends that dispute. Don't make me have to take it further. I was,
how old were you?
A 9th grader.
Ninth grade.
And so certainly that left a very significant impression. That evening, while the pulling out of the weapon quelled it for the moment, it did not end the dispute. And I had an acquaintance who was shot that evening. And so, like I said, I'm not a stranger to these kind of issues.
So that's real. What happened to the shooter? What happened to the gunman?
I don't know. I mean, it was not something that, as far as we did what most people do when we ran, right? I mean, so we ran and got out of there, and so I was not present when the actual shooting happened, but I was certainly there at the earlier moment when the semi-automatic weapon was pulled. It was obviously beyond unfortunate. And
terrifying.
Terrifying.
Right? A 9th grade kid, 14, 15 years old, Max. Where was this?
This was right here in the village of Harlem.
Like whereabouts? Do you remember?
This was in the 120s, and so the western Harlem, so off of Amsterdam.
Okay.
Heading in and out of court, surrounded by security, Alvin Bragg is at the helm of New York City's criminal cases. As the Manhattan District Attorney, he's the driving force in prosecuting Donald Trump. A Harlem native, Bragg has long said the trauma of a police officer holding a gun to his head at 15 influenced his passion for justice. After Harvard Law School and a series of top prosecution jobs, he became Manhattan's first black DA. A Democrat and one of 5 district attorneys for New York City, he was elected to the role in November 2021, and he quickly came under fire for dropping his predecessor's investigation into Trump's net worth. He feared it would not hold up in court. But he did successfully prosecute Trump's business on tax fraud charges. And behind the scenes in Lower Manhattan, the Stormy Daniels investigation gained momentum, culminating with last week's indictment, the first of a former president.
Those big changes announced by Manhattan's new district attorney. Alvin Bragg says it is time to make that move to keep his campaign promise of criminal justice reform.
He says he'll stop seeking prison sentences for some criminal charges and will downgrade some felony charges in cases including armed robberies and drug dealing. CBS 2's Andrea Klein-Thomas has the plan and the opposition to it.
With just days on the job, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is changing how some crimes will be prosecuted. It fulfills a campaign promise Bragg says is informed by his upbringing in Harlem and personal experiences, both confronting and upholding the law.
Having had an automatic weapon to my head, a knife to my throat, I wanted to give voice to the people who know those experiences and to give context to those who don't.
In a memo to staff, offenses like marijuana misdemeanors, prostitution, and fare evasion will no longer be prosecuted. Bragg says the changes will allow attorneys more time to prosecute violent offenses.
Obviously, there's going to be a government response, but for fare evasion, it's not going to be incarceration. Not in Manhattan. I had a shootout on my block a month ago. We need to be focused on that.
At the NYCHA building, is that what you remember?
Yes, where the genesis, where we started, spilled out from there.
Yeah, so that's one instance. What are the other two?
The other two, it was on. Again, I may be going out of sequence, but in college, on 110th and Broadway, I believe it might have been a New Year's Eve, and it was this dispute between patrons, and someone pulled out a gun. I was not the intended target, but I think it was indiscriminate and started sort of shooting up this diner. And again, everyone ran for cover. When the smoke cleared, the literal smoke cleared, you have people coming out of the kitchen with various forms of pots and pans or whatever they thought could protect them. And so that was, again, I wasn't the intended target, but was in the midst.
You remember that like it's yesterday.
I certainly do.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, and thank you for joining me. Oh man, I've been spending a couple of hours looking through and trying to find as much information on Mr. Bragg as possible. Oh my God. This man has a hatred stemming back before he even became a candidate. Before he even became the DA. You get me? This is something that has been in the works for way longer than him. You get what I'm saying?
And we begin tonight with the saga of Stormy Daniels, a story that started a long time ago in 2006 to be exact. It was the year adult film actress Daniels, whose legal name is Stephanie Clifford, said she met Donald Trump at a celebrity golf tournament and that the two allegedly began an affair. Trump was married to Melania by then. Daniels was 27 years old at the time, and Trump was 60. There had been whispers of the affair for a while. Remember, Trump was a real estate mogul and tabloid darling back then. But what was once gossipy tea became a problem, a huge problem, when Trump, the Apprentice star, became Trump, the American president. In 2018, the Wall Street Journal reported that longtime Trump fixer Michael Cohen had arranged a $130,000 payment before the 2016 election as part of an agreement that precluded Daniels from publicly discussing her sexual encounters with Trump. Hush payoffs were also used to silence former Playboy model Karen McDougal, another one of Trump's alleged mistresses. Is it illegal to pay off an ex-girlfriend? Does it mean you cannot be president? No.
I'm not a smart man.
Of course not. But Daniels was paid during Trump's presidential run and just 1 month before Election Day, making the payments a campaign finance violation, which of course was a big problem too for Michael Cohen. According to the Journal's sources, it was he who arranged the payment to Daniels in October 2016 after her lawyer negotiated the non-disclosure agreement with Cohen. Cohen was given a 3-year prison sentence after pleading guilty to crimes that included facilitating those payments, as well as other financial crimes. But according to accounts, Trump himself was involved directly in each deal, with Trump reportedly telling Cohen to get it done.
I've done a tax fraud case. That kind of conduct right there is deeply troubling, and that's what I'm thinking about when I say, holding him accountable. So yeah, you are right. We got two standards of justice. Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein. Being a rich old white man has allowed you to evade accountability in Manhattan. That includes Trump and his children. They were engaged in fraud in a Soho real estate deal. His children. So you are right. We got two standards of justice. I grew up in the second standard in Harlem. I know all about it. And you're right. I'm being a little careful because I don't want to prejudge. And then I get in the office, and the first motion I get from the Trump team is, I got to recuse myself because I prejudged the facts.
From New York to the world, subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
You got Ebro, that's me. You got Rosenberg. Laura Stiles is on maternity leave, and we are together with Alvin Bragg today, running for Manhattan District Attorney to try to remove Cy Vance, I think, whose Cy's been sitting on the gig for a couple of decades. Right, Alvin?
He's a decade. He's going on 12 years at the end of the term. So
12. So, I have my issues with Cy Vance, and there's things that I believe he hasn't done well. But one of the things leading into this vote for the Manhattan District Attorney's office, I know a lot of people are wondering, whoever has this job, are they going to convict Donald Trump?
Look, that is the number one issue. We know he's investigating. And what I'll say is I was the first to announce against Cy Vance. I, too, have a lot of issues, which is why I decided to run. I'm the candidate in the race who has the experience with Donald Trump. I was the chief deputy in the Attorney General's office. We sued the Trump administration over 100 times for the Muslim travel ban, for family separation at the border, for shenanigans with the census. So I know how to litigate with him. I also led the team that did the Trump Foundation case. So I'm ready to go wherever the facts take me.
Shut up, nigga.
And to inherit that case. And I think, it'd be hard to argue with the fact that that'd be the most important, most high-profile case. And I've seen him up front and seen the lawlessness that he can do.
And you believe it should happen?
I believe we have to hold him accountable. I haven't seen all the facts beyond the public. But I've litigated with him, and so I'm prepared to go where the facts take me once I see them and hold him accountable.
How is it not going to put someone at his level in jail? Now, I know the answer is he's an old white man and he's got a lot of money and he was just coming out of the office of president. But
he himself is nothing more than a diversity hire.
District Attorney.
It is the first time in more than a decade the city is preparing for a new top prosecutor. Here's an early look at the numbers right now. Alvin Bragg out front 35% ahead of his two closest challengers, 30 and 11% there for the following two. CBS 2's Jessica Layton live in Lower Manhattan at the courts with more for us. Jessica.
Maurice, crowded and competitive field for Manhattan's top prosecutor tonight. Alvin Bragg came into this primary election day 9 points ahead of his next closest opponent. And as you just saw there on screen, this race still remains extremely close at this hour. Now, Alvin Bragg, the Harlem native, is up right now in the only poll that really matters, and that is the votes cast in this race tonight. When Cy Vance Jr. announced he would not be running for another term, these 8 Democrats went all in. And it's been close throughout the entire race between Bragg and Talley for Haiti and Weinstein. Bragg, a once chief deputy attorney general in the state, promising to end cash bail. For Haiti and Weinstein, working in the Obama Justice Department. Now, the next DA has a full plate already, going on to inherit the possible prosecution of former President Trump for alleged financial crimes. Also, having to find ways to make New Yorkers feel safe, as crime, we know, is skyrocketing across the city right now.
He's a diversity hire. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Mr. Bragg was bought by whoever bought him. You get me? Hey, this is a big game, and I want people to understand. You get me? These days, you buy anything and anybody. You get what I'm saying? This case in itself is about money being handed to people for reasons.
The city will be watching as he tackles rising crime. And should Bragg win November's general election, he will inherit something else, the prosecution of the Trump Organization.
I've done a number of kind of high-profile cases involving people in or near the seat of power. If they take you to a business person, if they take you to a former president, you follow the facts.
Alvin Bragg says if he ever needs a reminder of why he's in this fight, he doesn't have to look too far.
I can recall my son not wanting to wear a face mask because of COVID. He told me, he's 11, very poignantly, I don't want to wear a face mask because I don't want to be stopped by the police lest they think I'm a robber. And so the notion that his father is going to be accountable and responsible for fairness is deeply personal to me.
You get what I'm saying? Alvin Bragg is bought. He is bought. You get me? And it's no doubt about it. He has no mind in the matter. He has no mind in the matter. He has come into this office with predetermined hatred for Donald Trump. You get me? He's a Democratic candidate. He is his party political affiliations is with Democrats. He is a Democrat going after a Republican president. That's what's happening. You get me? He is the first black blah 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 blah. Let him tell it. You get me? And it's so sad. You get me? Because every one of them all come with this defeated attitude. These are not the type of district attorneys or leaders that come with a mind to fix the problem. They can't because them getting elected in itself is the system working to keep everybody else down. You get me? This man was not, he is not here as a leader. He's here as a puppet. This is another puppet, a puppet. You get me? To keep the black people, to placate black people, basically, to placate people, period. You get what I'm saying? He's not here to make decisions. He can't. He's a weak puppet.
Attending the funeral of hero cop Jason Rivera, where his widow called him out.
We are not safe anymore. I know you were tired of these laws, especially the ones from the new DA. I hope he's watching you speak through me right now.
Are being read the Riot Act by Governor Kathy Hochul.
We need to do more to protect public safety.
Whatever the reason, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has backed off his earlier day one memo that provoked demands for his ouster. Seems instead of being the softer, gentler prosecutor he campaigned on, he apparently now wants to be the new sheriff of Manhattan. His tough on crime stance in this new memo telling his staff violence against police officers will not be tolerated. Gun possession cases are a key part of our plan for public safety. People walking the streets with guns will be prosecuted and held accountable. A commercial robbery with a gun will be charged as a felony, whether or not the gun is operable, loaded, or a realistic imitation. We also will use gun possession cases as an opportunity to trace the source of illegal guns and build cases against gun traffickers. His earlier memo told staffers to only seek jail for the most serious offenses and to seek alternatives to incarceration for first-time offenders and people charged with certain robberies and assaults, even gun possession and resisting arrest in cases where no other crimes were involved.
And Reverend Al, we would love for you to tell us more about Alvin Bragg, the DA, who has been the target of death threats, the man who Republicans like Ron DeSantis are using, using old anti-Semitic tropes against his supporters, saying that he's nothing but a lackey for a Jewish international banker. The old George Soros line that all these Republicans are shamelessly using was anti-Semitic trope. Of course, Donald Trump has called him a racist against white people. And an animal. Tell us about the DA, who's now suddenly at the center of the world's attention.
Well, Alvin Bragg is a very solid family man. Sunday school teaches Sunday school at his church in Harlem, born, raised in Harlem, went to Harvard Law School. And in Harvard, they talk about how when there was a controversial black activist that was invited to speak at Harvard, it was Alvin that tried to get both sides to understand
why they would bring this controversial black activist. And then not long after that, they had a white professor that had advocated things that was considered anti-black, and he wanted that guy heard. And they said, this guy's got some real kind of balance with him. That's the Alvin Bragg we know in Harlem. He comes by National Action Network all the time, even on our youth nights when I'm not there. So he's a solid guy.
You get me? I listened to his stories of how he got beat up, or not beat up, how he got robbed 3 times and things like that in Harlem. I'm like, okay, you're 49 years old. 49 years old. You get me? You went to Harvard. You get what I'm saying? A 15-year-old kid. I don't think, you get me? You went to Harvard University. You stayed in Harlem. You get what I'm saying? I don't know what people think of Harlem, but it ain't what you think it is. You get what I'm saying? Maybe Malcolm X can tell stories about Harlem. Yeah, Harlem was the place, where you slum and people used to come to Harlem to see the dances and all that. You know what I'm saying? Everything could get done in Harlem, and you watch Harlem Nights and all that other shit. No, I don't think so, man. You get what I'm saying? Look, man, come on now.
Shots fired, like a bunch of shots. People running for their lives.
Yes.
So you understand the terror as crime victims tell it, right?
Yes.
What's the third instance? What happened?
The third instance was...
I'm sorry, what happened to the shooter?
So then again,
no idea.
I don't know, right? I did what I think all the patrons did is, we were not asking questions to follow up, right? It was kind of save yourself.
You get me? Look, I used to be on the plantation, right? Everything they said, I was in agreement until you start looking at these people, man. It's so sad that the time that they reversed it on y'all. They reversed it on y'all. They reversed it on y'all. You get me? You think getting opportunity is good. In actuality, it's bad, because the opportunity that y'all are getting, y'all are being bought and paid for. Explaining the ties between Alvin Bragg and George Soros. Donald Trump allies have accused the district attorney, bringing a case against him as having been bought by Mr. Soros, the philanthropist. That is misleading, though the men do have a financial connection. As a potential indictment looms over former President Donald Trump, he and his allies have sought to tie the Manhattan District Attorney, bringing the case to familiar Republican specter George Soros, the financier and Democratic mega donor. Mr. Soros, who has backed Democratic candidates and cause as well as democracy and human rights around the world, has for years been a boogeyman on the right, often on the right, confronting attacks that portray him as a globalist mastermind and that often veer into anti-Semitic tropes. The connection between him and Alvin Bragg, the district attorney, are real but overstated in reality. Mr. Soros donated to a liberal group that endorses progressive prosecution and supports of efforts to overhaul the criminal justice system in line with causes that he has publicly supported for years. The group used a significant portion of the money to support Mr. Bragg in his 2021 campaign. Y'all are not really getting opportunity, and nobody is really making it anywhere. You get what I'm saying? Y'all are weak. They flipped it on y'all. Y'all weak. Y'all don't come. Y'all are not the people who have fought and who have made it with experience. No, y'all are weak people who are given a chance. Y'all are like Hollywood puppets. Hollywood puppets. Y'all are Hollywood. Even in the district attorney's office, even in the court system, even in the presidential elections and the cabinet and everywhere. Everybody's being bought. And the weaker you are, the easier you are to be bought. Alvin Bragg is a paid for puppet. Is a paid for puppet designed to go after Trump. Whether it blows up in his face or not, it doesn't matter because it's not his face. So